All right, everyone. So welcome to your Friday morning hips practice. We're going to start a little differently than maybe you're used to. So we're going to start on our bellies. You can always grab a pillow if you'd like for your cheek or for your forehead if your ground is pretty hard like mine. And then you'll start to make your way down. So come all the way down onto your belly, resting either your forehead or your cheeks in your hands or even just on the mat. Okay. You can always take your feet a little bit wider, heels drop in if you feel tension into your lower back. Just soften all of the muscles along the back side of your body. And start to breathe into the front of your body. As you inhale, feel your belly press down in towards the earth. The back of your chest rises. And as you exhale, let your front side body sink down, down, down. Inhale, breath, fill up. And exhale, press the front of your body into your mat. Let yourself rest heavier. 2 more breaths just like that. Inhale, expand. And exhale, release. With each exhale breath, releasing any amounts of tension that are just lingering. Your front side body is your Atman, or your physical self in this world. And so it represents your physical body, the body that we experience day-to-day life. So before we get up and start moving, can you just feel into the corners of self? The tactile quality of your clothes, the mat, the ground beneath you. You feel air move in through your nose and then softly out through your mouth. Tune into the expansion and contraction of your lungs and your rib cage. Just allowing yourself to simply feel into your body without having to meet any expectation, without having to do any specific action, but simply be with yourself. When we choose ourselves, we choose to show up as we are in that moment, even if things aren't perfect, even if they're not falling into place like we expected. And so today's practice is really just about creating this deeper connection with your body and with yourself, so that you trust that it's okay to be in your body even when you don't have the answers. It's okay to be present and mindful even if the outside circumstances aren't ideal. Now you can keep your forehead rooted down, or you can take your left cheek to your left palm. Start to float your right heel off of your mat, and then reach your right hand back for the top of your foot. We're coming into a half boat pose. On an inhale breath, start to kick into your hand, belly presses down, and your knee might rise up. You may even rise your upper body if you'd like. And then as you exhale, come back down to the mat, lower down, release tension of your muscles. Inhale breath, kick your foot into your hand. Either knee will lift, or you can always guide the upper body slightly up. And then exhale, come all the way back down. Take 1 more breath on this side, just like that. Inhale, lift. And exhale, lower. Release the grip of your foot. Float your foot to your mat like you're moving through water. Switch your cheek to the other side, or right hand underneath forehead. Pick up your left heel in towards your body. Left hand catches your left heel. As you inhale, kick into your hands, start to float your knee off of your mat. Maybe your heart lifts. Exhale, lower down, soften into your muscles. Inhale, breath, lift up. And exhale to lower. Let's take one more breath just like that. Inhale to lift. And exhale, lower and release your foot down. Plant your hands underneath your shoulders. Press into the earth. Peel away from your mat meet into tabletop. Walk your knees underneath your hips. And just start to find some fluid movement through your spine. So you might take your hips side to side. You might send your hips forward or back. You can always take cat-cows, where you come into tabletop and drop the belly on your inhale, and then curl and round the spine on your exhale. There's no right or wrong way to move through this, just finding what feels good for your body. Eventually, over the next 3 to 5 breaths, you'll land into a child's pose, walking toes together, knees wide, and then sitting your hips back towards your heels. Now, if you do have blocks, you may want them for the next movement. So instead of blocks at the top of your mat, you can use this transition to bring blocks beside your hips on either side. Find some length in your child's pose, starting to activate the muscles to create space. Reach through your fingertips, and at the same time, slide your shoulders in the opposite direction. Can you notice the sensation of lengthening, while at the same time soften into that space? So instead of lengthening through force or through effort, can you lengthen and then melt? Lengthen as you inhale, and then soften into the exhale. Take one more breath. On your next inhale, pull forward. Just sending your hips in front of you. Might be a nice stretch for the hips. And then you'll bring your hips all the way back to your heels. Walk your hands in towards your body. So hips now stack over top of your heels. Knees will be wide, and then you'll have blocks if you want them on either side of your hips. If this is a lot for your knees, just pick your hips up so that you're more on your shins. You walk your right hand beside your right hip. Press into your right hand. Lift your hips away from your heels and float your left fingertips over to the right side of your mat. So you'll still be facing the front. As you exhale, hips come back, left fingertips sweep forward, left hand places beside your left hip, and then hips go forward as your right hand reaches over. Okay, so it might be a little sticky as you first move through this, but start to find your breath. Exhale, hips back, sweep your hands forward, and then over to the side as your hips lift. Exhale, dive forward, and then inhale, reach your arms over, hips ahead. And just continue with your breath, sweeping your body side to side. You can always take your knees in closer or wider. You don't have to drop your hips back to your heels. You can always just walk your hands forward if that feels better, keeping your hips lifted. Okay, let's take one more to each side. We're finishing out this last movement that you just found. And then gently, you can release your hands out in front of you and start to walk your hands forward. Take your knees in. All right, tucking your toes under, first down dog of practice. Press into your feet, lift your hips up, mount your heels down. Now it might feel a little bit sticky, so just start to pedal out through the feet, bending one knee at a time. Maybe dropping one armpit through center. Relax into the back of your head and your neck. Now, if you find you have quite knobby knees or you have a really hard floor, you may want to bring a pillow with you for this next little bit. From downward facing dog, just slowly lower yourself all the way down onto your knees, meeting back to tabletop. If you are using a pillow, place it underneath your left knee to start. Your right toes tuck, right heel slides back. Just start to press forward and back. Pressing your heel towards the ground, pushing into your fingertips, then you can release forward. Take one more breath just like that, moving through the back of the right calf. And the next time that you come through center, pause, float your right heel up in line with your hip. Bend your right knee, activating the back of the hamstring muscles. Beautiful. Spread your fingertips wide. If this is a lot for your fingertips, you can always come down to forearms or walk your hands a little bit further forward ahead of your shoulders. Bring your right knee out to the side into your chest. Inhale, breath, sweep your right knee down and up. Exhale, scoop your knee out to the side and in. Just one more circle in this direction. Inhale, knee lifts. Exhale, knee drops. Inhale, lift your knee all the way up, and then cross your right knee over top of your left shin. And then you can slide your right toes towards the back left corner of your mat. This is a great opportunity to lower down onto your forearms. So your thighs are crisscrossed. Optional to tuck your right toes and float your knee. This will give you that ability to kind of rock forward and back. Or you can come into this more modified variation of a pigeon pose. So make sure you're not in pigeon. Relax the back of your head and neck. Know that you can always find little tiny movements, sending your hips to the left or the right, or shifting forward or back until you find a comfortable place to land. Try to soften into the muscles of your left hip, especially if they feel like they're working really hard right now. And then one at a time, come back up onto your hands. Tuck your right toes and lift your knee if it wasn't already there. And slide your right foot so it's back in line with your hip. All right, listen carefully, a bit of a different transition. Walk to the right, so you're walking to the long edge of your mat. As you do so, pivot your left toes back behind you and right foot plants. Half child's pose. Start to walk your right foot out, and as you do so, your hips will sink back towards your left heel. Now, if you struggle with deep flexion of the knee, your hips can stay lifted, hips might come down to your heel. Don't worry about depth, just focus on the sensation that is happening into your right inner thigh and maybe the compression in your left knee or left hip. As long as there's no pain, even if there's a little bit of discomfort, it's okay to be here with your body. Our bodies are still waking up for the day, and they might be holding on some tension of what they've gone through this week, this month, even habits throughout our lifetime. So not everything in our practice has to be comfortable, because to create change is also to be uncomfortable, to toe outside of that chalk circle we've drawn around ourselves of our comfort zone, and to just explore some new uncertain waters. Make sure that there's always a level of feeling grounded and connected as you play with depth, so that you're never just diving in and feeling unsupported, but that as you play with these levels of discomfort and newness, that you also feel supported by yourself and that you have that home to come back to. Gently make your way onto your seat. So either from forearms, or you can walk back up onto hands. Sole of your left foot will come to the inside of your right leg. And you can always readjust where that foot lands. Turn your shoulders to face your extended leg. Inhale, breath, reach your fingertips all the way up. Grow tall through the spine. Exhale, hinge and fold towards your extended leg. Inhale, breath, halfway lift and lengthen. Exhale to fold. Take 2 more breaths just like that, even if it's tiny movements. Inhale, reach the crown of your head forward, lengthen out your spine. Exhale, drape and fold. 1 more breath. with movement, and eventually settle into a fold. Even as you settle into stillness, recognize the pattern and fluidity of your breath still moving, still carrying you through this experience and sensations. Can you find a steady home with your breath? Let distraction fade so that you can be fully present with your body. Walk your hands up the length of your leg to stack your shoulders over top of your hips. Plant your left hand beside your left hip, either rock star or modified plank. As you press into your left hand, also optional, use a block if the ground feels far. Come up onto your left shin, reach right hand towards the front of your mat and right leg extends. If you're coming to rock star, that's more that back bend. You'll start to trace your right fingertips back behind you and you create the arc through the heart. Still squeeze your glutes to activate the muscles of the hips, but also to lengthen the front. Okay. Gate pose. Sweep your right fingertips down in front like we did earlier, and allow your right hand to slide down your extended leg and left fingertips circle over to the back of your mat. Now feeling the lengthening on the opposite side of your body. Root through your right foot to stay steady. Inhale, breath, lift fingertips up through center, stack your shoulders over top of your wrists. Exhale, left hand plants towards the top of your mat. Pick up your extended leg. Okay, so right foot guides in line with your right hip. Optional, keep it lowered if that doesn't feel good, or optional bind, bend into your right knee, top hand, same hand as foot, will connect to your right foot, ankle or shin. You can always catch your knee in front and then slide it back if it's hard to reach the foot behind you. And if you are in the bind, squeeze your glutes, send your hips forward to get that juicy opening in the quadriceps, in the front of the thigh and hip flexor. Open up through your right shoulder. Take one more breath as you are. Gently release the grip of your foot. Extend, reach through the right arm. And then listen carefully. Walk along the long edge of your mat towards the back. Right hand comes down. Start to pivot yourself to meet in half splits. Right heel roots down. Left toes pivot back behind you. So left knee stays bent, right leg stays straight. All right. Bend into your front knee. Coming into a monkey lunge. Hands plant down. We're gonna make this a little bit different. Tuck your back toes to lift your back knee, low runner's lunge. Take a full breath in. As you exhale, shift your hips back. Bend into your back knee, but hover it and come into a hovering half split. Now, if this doesn't feel good, lower your back knee and come into a half split. That's okay. This is just a little bit more strengthening. Inhale, breath, shift forward, low lunge. Drop your left hip down to keep your knee lifted. Exhale, hovering half splits, or optional to lower the knee. 2 more times. Inhale, breath, shift forward. Exhale, half splits. 1 more time. Inhale, shift forward. Exhale to half splits. Knee into your low runner's lunge as you inhale. Take an exhale breath. Inhale, 3-legged dog. Sweep your right foot up to the sky. Bend into your right knee. Stack into your hip. Peel your side body open. And then as you exhale, gently release back down to downward facing dog. Feel the difference between your right and your left hip. If one hip feels more open, if there's areas of tension, just simply be with your body, noticing and observing, but leaving judgment at the door. Slowly lower your knees down towards your mat. Bring your knees together, big toes together, and just sit your hips back onto your heels. Hands can land onto your thighs. You circle out your wrists if you're feeling a lot of tension in your wrists. If this feels like a lot on your knees, find something to sit onto. Either you can take pillows behind your knees so there's less flexion, or you can separate your feet and sit onto a block or a couple stacks of books. Just pause in seated. Hands either on your thighs or can land upon one another in your lap. Slow down your breath and take the pause to check back in. So often when we get busy, overwhelmed, looking ahead, we step outside of our bodies and we bring our attention fully into our minds. But your body is this beautiful gift to yourself to just feel the world around you, to interact with life. And so to choose you is to also choose to be in your body, to be present, to be in this beautiful gift that you've been given, to taste, touch, smell, see, hear. Gently, you can start to slide your hands forward, release out any props that you had underneath. Meet back into your tabletop. Tuck your left toes under, slide your left heel back behind you. And just start to rock forward and back. Notice the shifts that happen when you press your left heel to the ground and then lift it higher. And just take one more breath with that movement. The next time you come through center, pause. Press your all 10 fingertips, float your left heel up in line with your hip. Bend your left knee. 3 circles in each direction. Take a full breath in. Exhale, scoop your left knee out to the side and down. Inhale, lift your left knee up and back. Exhale, circle down. Inhale, last one. Exhale, circle down. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, switch directions. Scoop your knee forward. Inhale out to the side and back. And exhale down. Take one more circle in this direction. And the next time that your knee comes up through center, pause. Cross your left knee over top of your right thigh. So legs are crisscrossed. And then slide your left toes to the back right corner of your mat. So it's like you're in a half upright pigeon. You lower down to your forearms. Optional, tuck your left toes to lift your knee. And you can always play with that rocking motion forward and back. You can always take your right hip more out to the side or pull it back. So those tiny movements and shifts are yours to get curious about, to play with, to find somewhere on your mat that feels like a release or whatever it is that you need from that shape. Try to soften into the back of your head, neck, and shoulders. You don't need these muscles to be tensing or activating to hold you here. Your bone structure will hold you up. Relax and soften the muscles of your face. And gently start to make your way back up onto your hands. Okay, tuck your left toes to lift your left knee and then slide your left foot back in line with your hip. Walk towards the left, long edge of the mat. Turn and pivot, half child's pose. Heel toe your left foot a little wider. Right hip lands back onto right heel. And you can start to spill forward. You can land onto your forearms, or you can fold like you would in a child's pose. If it feels better for your left knee, you can always turn those toes up. Notice the sensations without needing to fix or change your body, but just take those subtle shifts if something doesn't quite feel right. But there's no fixing what you're given here, just simply navigating. Your body is your body. It's this beautiful creation. And so you don't need to contour it or carve it out, but just simply work with what you've been given. Work together with your body rather than against it. Use the next couple of breaths to make your way onto your seat so that the sole of your right foot can come to the inside of your left leg. Turn and square your shoulders so that you face your extended leg. Inhale, breath, reach your fingertips all the way up. Exhale, hinge and fold towards your extended leg. 3 breaths to lengthen and fold the spine. So inhale, pull your heart away from your knee. Exhale to fold. 2 more breaths just like that. Inhale to lengthen and exhale to fold. Take 1 more breath and then settle into the subtlety of this movement in stillness. So it should still be an expansion and contraction of your breath, but maybe not as apparent as before. Walk your hands up the length of your leg, shoulders stack over top of your hips. Right hand plants beside your right hip. As you inhale, reach to the back of your mat up onto your right shin. Either keep your body in one straight line like you would for a modified plank, or start to arc through the heart more into that rock star shape. Yogi's choice. Gaze can tip up wherever is comfortable. Similar to this movement that we found in child's pose earlier, as you exhale, start to sweep your left hand out in front of you all the way to your extended leg. Right hand follows, and then open up through the right shoulder. Reach to the top of your mat. Gate pose. Inhale, breath, both fingertips to the sky. Exhale, modified half moon. Right hand plants down, extended leg picks up. Optional, pause here, work on strength. Maybe you keep the foot down and just hold, or bend into your knee and catch the top of your foot or ankle or shin. This will give you juicy opening into the tight muscles of the quads and hip flexors. Squeeze your glutes to send your hips forward. Beautiful. Gently release the grip of your foot if you have it. Inhale, breath, extend out long. Exhale, walk towards the top of your mat. So walking to your left, hands just begin to crisscross over top of each other. Turn and pivot, half splits. Right toes point back, left toes pull up towards the ceiling. I know that right knee has had a lot of work on the mat, so we're going to start to lift it off. Bend it into your front knee, lunge pose. Tuck your right toes, and now lift your right knee off. Beautiful. Take a full breath in. Exhale, hovering half splits. Send your hips back, straighten out your front leg, and bend into your right knee. Inhale, breath, shift forward. Bend your left knee, right hip drops. Exhale, half splits. Optional to lower the knee if you'd like. Inhale, breath, shift forward. Exhale to hovering half splits. One more time. Okay. Shift back into your lunge. Plant your hands, 3-legged dog. Sweep your left foot back behind you. Bend into your left knee, stack into your hip. Take a full breath in. As you exhale, step halfway up your mat. Turn and pivot all 10 toes to the long edge of your mat. So you're in a wide-legged forward fold. All right, this is a little bit different. Bear with me. Walk your fingertips forward. So you're in a wide-legged downward facing dog. And then just start to shift. So your sacrum side to side. Sacrum is the fused bones of your spine underneath your last lumbar vertebra. Or think of it as the part of your spine opposite of your hip bone. So if you just traveled around, that's the part that I want you moving. Okay, so it's this plate of your spine. And just start to trace a figure 8 pattern with your sacrum. So you might just start by moving your hips left to right, but then you can start to create little rounded edges on that movement side to side. So either a figure 8 or an infinity symbol. As you move through this, you might feel a little bit more loosening in your hips or your lower back. Start to walk your hands in closer to your body as you continue this movement all the way until you land into a wide-legged forward fold. Come into stillness once you've landed in your forward fold. Pick up your heels one at a time, turn your toes out, sink your hips down for a goddess squat, and then start to shift again side to side. Let your hands drag along the floor. Belly button pulls up into your spine, but you're gonna be a little bit rounded. So your upper body is just hanging loosely. Legs are supporting you. And over the next 5 or so breaths, you'll make your way up to standing, but just allowing your upper body to drape. So it's almost like you're dancing with this rhythm of your own body. Don't worry if you're the first step or the last step. Eventually you'll start to sink back into your hips. You just be rolling your shoulders up and back. Notice any connection to feeling silly or like you're doing this wrong or being judged. Let that go and just move. Close your eyes. Just move and sway your body, fluid, like you're dancing through water. Beautiful. Okay, let's settle into stillness in a goddess squat. Start to sink your hips down. Slow down the movement. Take a full breath in and a long, steady breath out. Can you still feel that movement as an undercurrent of your breath, even though you're not physically moving the body in this outward expression? One more breath. Okay. Inhale, breath, sweep your arms out and up, stand tall, straighten out your legs. Exhale, bend your knees, sweep your arms out and down, even crisscrossing the wrists or the elbows. Inhale, stand tall, reach up, big stretch through the body. Exhale, sink down, arms loosely crossed. One more time, inhale, reach up. Exhale, sink down. Inhale, breath, reach all the way up, and then gather your hands to heart center. Pick up your right heel, and then turn and step to the top of your mat. Release your palms down, Tadasana Mountain Pose. Roll your shoulders up and back, feet hip width distance apart. Pause with your physical body. Notice any sensations still lingering, maybe some sensations fading. Can you allow the rest of the world to move fast around you and just choose to be with yourself in this moment without worrying about falling behind, not being enough, not doing enough, and just breathe. Inhale, breath, reach arms all the way up, big body stretch. Exhale, forward fold, bend your knees, drape your body. Inhale, breath, halfway lift and lengthen. Exhale, plant your hands, step your toes back, high plank. Take a full breath in your high plank. As you exhale, lift your hips up and back, downward facing dog. Walk your big toes together to touch. Inhale, right heel lifts high to the sky. Bend your right knee, stack into your hips. Peel your side body open. As you exhale, gently take your right knee towards your right wrist, right ankle to the left side of your mat, half pigeon. Lower your back knee down. Untuck your back toes. If this feels like too much for either of your knees, know that deer is always an option. From this shape, you'll just shift to your front hip and then bend your back knee to a comfortable angle. Either pose, you're welcome to stay upright, or you can start to forward fold. You can take your forehead onto stacked fists or hands or a block. Pillows can be used to support the weight of your upper body. Start to connect inwards in these slower moments. Just becoming an observer of your mind, but also a friend to your body. It's really interesting that the yoga practice is considered self-care. But how often do we come to our mat and self-care isn't the objective? That it's about fixing our physical shape, getting different muscle tone, or we focus so much on the outward appearance of the body, on the physical expression of the pose, of how deep we can get, rather than what does it feel like to just be in your body. And so for a moment, can you let go of outwardly what this looks like or what you think you're gaining or getting out of it, and just simply sit in the experience of the gift of being with yourself. Because ultimately, you are the person you spend the majority of your life with. And so I truly hope that you enjoy the company of that person and that you learn to love the outer shell of that person. And you learn to love the inner self just as much. Right, this is going to seem like a little bit of a strange transition, so once again, bear with me. If you have folded, gently make your way back up just enough. You're going to meet in wind relieving pose. Right knee will be in your chest, left leg is extended. So the same knee that's bent will stay bent, the same leg that's straight will stay straight. Start to roll yourself over your right hip and then onto your back. Right knee comes into your chest and left leg stays straight. Now, if you're craving movement, you can always rock your right knee side to side or just pause in stillness for a moment. Okay. If there's a different variation of twist that you need to close your practice or this part of your practice with, we're not done yet, you're welcome to take whatever variation you need, even if it's not the one that I'm choosing today. Use your left hand to guide your right knee across your body. Right arm can extend out or can cactus or diamond shape. Other options, you can bend your left knee and cross your thighs and come into a twisted root shape. You could bend both knees and just have your legs stacked gently over top of one another. So really just whatever variation of this shape feels good for you. Gaze might come over the opposite shoulder. Tune into the sensations running down the outer edge of your right hip. Allow your breath to rinse up and down your spine. And then on your next inhale, unwind back up through center. Pull both knees in towards your chest and wrap your arms behind the backs of your knees. And gently rock side to side. Now, if rocking and rolling up and down the length of your spine does not feel good for you, just roll to either side, press up to tabletop, and meet in down dog. Otherwise, for the rest of you, we'll start to rock and roll up and down the length of our spine. It's massaging out muscles on either side of your spine. Eventually, you'll roll up enough that you can cross your ankles, slide your hands forward to meet in tabletop. Optional to add in any movement you're craving. Otherwise, lift your hips up and back, downward facing dog. Don't worry that you will be facing the back of your mat. That's okay. Walk your big toes together to touch. Inhale, left heel draws high to the sky. Bend into your left knee, stack into your hip. As you exhale, left knee to left wrist, left ankle to the right side of your mat. Lower your back knee down. Find the depth that serves you in your half pigeon or your deer. You can lower all the way down. You can even take a different shape if neither of these work for you, or even if you didn't take deer on the first side, you're welcome to take it on this side. Remembering that there's nobody saying what your practice needs to look like today. And especially with the home practice, you don't have to worry about going a little bit off trail if you feel called to do so. Really cultivating this inner awareness of self so that when we do feel these nudges of the heart, that we trust them and we stop fighting so hard against what our inner voice is telling us. So essentially, carve out a safe place for you to be here with your body. And perhaps asking yourself the question of what do you need to let go of in order to find that safe space? What can you stay more open to in this moment? Start to walk your hands back up and towards your body. You may need to scoop yourself more to the right side of your mat. Wind relieving pose. Roll over your left hip until you land onto your back. Left knee draws in and right leg extends out. Take a couple of deep breaths, just settling into this shape. And on your own time, find your variation of twist. Whether that's one leg straight, one leg bent, twisted roots. It might not even be the exact same one that you took on the other side if it's causing pain or just really, really uncomfortable to the point you're checking out of your body. Try to stay present with your breath. Breath is a really good indication of whether you are connected or you disconnected. If you're aware of your breath, a good chance is that you are present with your physical body. When we get distracted by the mind, we lose this awareness of self and we start to go deep into that rabbit hole of thought. And so I encourage you today to still allow thoughts to pass through, but more surface level. We're not attaching and diving deep into that thought, but just simply becoming aware and then bringing the awareness back to our bodies. Gently start to unwind back through center. Plant both feet wide to the edges of your mat. And pick up your hips and replace them back down in the center. Just gently drop your knees over to the left and over to the right. Wash out your hips. The next time your knees come up through center, pause and just allow your knees to drop in towards one another so they're knock-kneed. Feet wider than your knees. If you do feel any pain or pulling on the inner part of your knee, just take your feet a little closer or readjust where you placed your feet so that you don't have to come quite as deep. Hands can land over your belly, down beside you, overhead. And try to take out that deep sway in your low back. So if there's a really big gap between your back and the ground, feel your belly button pull down towards the ground and hip bones pull up towards your ribs, like you're squishing that space between hip bones and ribs. A little bit of contraction in the core, with some internal rotation for the hips. Allow yourself the space to just pause in stillness. Once more, just watch this out side to side, really focusing on the internal rotation of the knee dropping through center and lifting back up and dropping the other side. If it feels good to pause for a moment on either side, you're welcome to. Otherwise, just following the flow of your breath. Let's take one final hug of our knees. Next time your knees come up, bring them into your chest. Wrap your arms around tops of your shins and just give yourself a giant squeeze. Allow this embrace to be an acceptance of your body as it is today. And just as it feels so good to embrace someone you love, can you allow this to be the same? Embracing this body that you love, that allows you to live your life to the fullest, and that allows you to participate in your life. If there's any final poses you need to take before the end of your practice, like a happy baby, you want to play with shoulder stand or plow, that might be nice for the lower back as well. There's no correct answer to how you need to close, but eventually you'll find yourself on your back or however Shavasana will look today, and just settling into this shell of your being. I think so much, especially as women, that there's this really big urge to meet an expectation, especially on the physical side. And I can't necessarily speak from a man's perspective, as I am not one, and perhaps it is something that they too deal with to a high level. But speaking from a woman's perspective, I know how often I've wished my body looked different. I wish that I could change something about myself. I wish that I was fitter or skinnier or stronger. And with all of this wishing, I essentially abandoned the fact that my body was perfect exactly as it is. Pretty is not the rent that we pay to exist in this world. We don't need to carve out our bodies to meet these unrealistic expectations of who who created these ideas in our mind of what it is to exist. And I encourage you to just glance back over your practice and notice how many times you judged areas of your body, of your appearance, of your ability to be in a pose. And then can you forgive yourself for each time that you abandon yourself here on the mat? Because even in a practice of self-love, sometimes we forget to encompass everything within. That we don't just love the parts of ourselves that are easy or that we like, but to also remember to love the parts of ourselves that we struggle with or that we don't. In doing this, you are practicing choosing yourself as you are and knowing that you are enough, not because you've met some expectation of enough, not because somebody else deemed you worthy, but because you just are enough as you are. I'll leave you here for a few moments in stillness on my end. So you can just sit with this beautiful gift that is you. I'll bring you out of this so that we can close off together, so you don't need to worry about time. If you would like a little longer in your Shavasana today, you're welcome to just stay as you are. I know it's hard sometimes to settle for long Shavasanas at home, so I do tend to keep them a little bit shorter. But please, by no means, feel like you have to get up. If you are in this reverie with self, just stay there a little longer. Otherwise, you can start to move yourself in whatever way feels comfortable, whatever way you just feel called to move, even if it's completely different than you've ever done before, or if it's the exact same. If you are moving, you can land yourself in a comfortable seat at the top of your mat, hands to heart center. And then repeat these 3 words to yourself 3 times. I am enough. Now believe it, because it's true. From the bottom of my heart to each and every one of yours. Namaste.